Hi students, today we will discuss about peptic ulcer disease. Before going to the peptic ulcer disease, we'll just know about the stomach. We all of us know that stomach is a J-shaped organ. I think here you can see that it's a J-shaped organ which is filled with the food that is coming from the esophagus. This is esophagus where the food is enter into the stomach. If you see here, it is the cardiac sphincter which where the stomach starts, and if you see here, it is the pyloric sphincter where it ends. And if you see here, the duodenum, it is the first part of the small intestine. And if you see in small intestine, we can observe duodenum, jejunum and ileum, where all these are the parts of the small intestine. And we can see this here, fundus, body and pylorus. These are the three main parts of the stomach, and the cells lining the stomach will secrete the three important substances, which are the mucus, HCl and pepsin. This is the mucous membrane, this layer, and HCl and pepsin are present inside the stomach. This mucus protects the gastric cells from the HCl and it provides the acidic medium, as well as it also promote the breakdown by pepsin. Everyone know that the stomach is a temporary storage of food, during which it is broken into the particles, means which will call it as a partial digestion with the help of the various digestive enzymes. It is also responsible for absorption of water or alcohol or any other lipid soluble drugs, and also production of some factors which are responsible for absorption of the vitamins like B12. Okay, now we'll go into the peptic ulcer. If we see, peptic ulcer is a chronic ulcerative disease which involves the stomach and duodenum. If ulcers develop in the stomach, means we'll call that as gastric ulcers, and if ulcers develop in the duodenum, we'll call that as duodenal ulcers. We'll see later about those. And mainly ulcers occurs at any level of the GIT, but most common locations are first part of the duodenum followed by stomach. Duodenum means which is the starting place of the intestine. And in certain cases, the clinical manifestations suggest the presence of peptic ulcer, means the symptoms and patient history will suggest that there is a presence of peptic ulcer. But if we go for the diagnosis, means if we go for endoscopic examination, we cannot find any ulcer. Means if we see using endoscopic test, there is no ulcer is found. Such condition is known as non-ulcer dyspepsia, means all the symptoms will be having ulcerative symptoms, but diagnostic test will not reveal any presence of ulcer. Those ulcers are known as non-ulcer dyspepsia. And what are the causes of this ulcer? Means Helicobacter pylori infection, which is nothing but H. pylori infection, and NSAIDs, which are the toxic medications for this kind of cause, and the smoking and chronic diseases like Zollinger-Ellison disease, hypotension, burns and CNS damage, means which is nothing but stress. These are the causes of the peptic ulcer disease. If we see about risk factors, means triggering factors, that are infection, smoking, alcohol, use of medications, genetics, all this leads to the risk factors. What are the signs and symptoms? Means severe epigastric pain, which occurs in the gastric type of ulcers, and nausea and vomiting. Melena means dark color stools and bloating or bleaching, and hematemesis means which is nothing but vomiting with blood. These are the signs and symptoms most commonly occurred in the type of ulcers. Complications means chronic gastritis, GI obstruction and GI bleeding and perforations. These are the complications. If we see about the pathophysiology, here before going into the pathophysiology, peptic ulcer is of two types. I already previously told that gastric ulcer and duodenal ulcer. If the ulcers found in the stomach is known as gastric ulcers, and duodenum it is known as duodenal ulcer. If you see here, in case of gastric ulcers means the ulcers is mainly caused by 80% of ulcer is due to H. pylori infection and 20% is due to NSAIDs drugs. And in this condition, while we taking food, the pain increases. Means why this is why, because means generally if we while we are taking food, then immediately after we take food, HCl and pepsin is released from the food what we take. Those HCl and pepsin is responsible for causing pain. Means it acts on the GI bones and causes epigastric pain. So when in case of presence of ulcers, due to the HCl and pepsin, it acts on the GI bones and it causes pain. So while we take food, immediately the pain is caused and it is relieved by vomiting. Because why? Because means by vomiting those HCl will go out from the stomach, so it is relieved by vomiting. And if we see signs and symptoms means vomiting, sense of vomiting and nausea, epigastric pain are the signs and symptoms in case of gastric ulcers. In case of duodenal ulcers, most of the mainly the ulcer is due to presence of NSAIDs use, and 20% is only by the H. pylori infection. This is how this occurs. Means while taking food, the pain decreases, and 3 to 5 hours after indigestion of food. Means this type of ulcers occurs only. Why? Because time taking, means it takes more time, means nearly about 3 hours of time from the food to become digest and to come to the duodenum part. After coming to the duodenum part only, it causes pain, because and it is due to ineffective neutralization of the HCl. Means if the HCl is not neutralized balancedly, then it causes pain in the duodenum. So it occurs after eating 3 to 4 hours of the food. And bloating and belching are the symptoms what we are seeing in the duodenal ulcers. Here if we see the pathophysiology deeply, we can observe that this is esophagus. I previously told esophagus, cardiac sphincter. Here is a pyloric sphincter. It's a greater curvature and lesser curvature. This is a mucus, and is a HCl and pepsin where it is present, and this is a duodenum. And jejunum and ileum are the beginning parts of the intestine. And why this ulcer occurs means when there is an imbalance between the aggressive factors and defensive factors. What are the aggressive factors and defensive factors? Means factors like HCl, pepsin and gastrin are the aggressive factors, and defensive factors means bicarbonates and mucus, means which protects our body, are the defensive factors. If you see here, I zoomed this part of stomach. We can see here the 4 layers. We can observe here there are 4 layers of the stomach. The first one is mucosa, submucosa, muscularis and serosa. These are the 4 layers. The layers of the if we want to see the deep into this layers, means again all these layers are subdivided, means all these layers, again the mucosa is divided into, it contains some more layers. I told that all the these mucosa and submucosa, muscularis, all these layers are again divided into some more sublayers. That is, mucosa contains 3 layers: epithelial layer, lamina propria and muscularis mucosa. And muscularis contains circular, longitudinal and oblique layers. These are the layers of the stomach. The layers of mucosa and submucosa have this one, means about these layers. it has function in the secretion and protection to the stomach. So what happens means, in stomach, if we have HCl and pepsin, I have already told HCl and pepsin are present in the stomach. Both of these contribute towards protein breakdown and digestion, which I have already explained to you. Means previously I told that HCl is used for breakdown of the proteins and pepsin digestion of the enzymes. Okay, if we eat any protein, they get digested by the enzymes present in the stomach. So when these enzymes are digested in the stomach, there is a protective layer that is made up of, this is the protective layer we can see here, which is made up of mucus and bicarbonate ions. And so what happens means, this mucus act as a barrier, so that between the barrier between the HCl, so that it never allow that HCl to come in contact with these layers. So this bicarbonate, it continuously neutralizes the H plus ions. So as soon as they come in vicinity of this muscular layers, it continuously neutralizes the presence of bicarbonate and function is continuously neutralizes the H plus ions. What happens means, the aggressive factors and defensive factors, what I have already told to you, that is HCl, pepsin and gastrin are the aggressive factors, and bicarbonate and mucus are the defensive factors. They work against each other, but in the physiological state there is a balance between the both these factors. As a consequence of this balance, we do not develop any ulcer. But when there is an imbalance between them, means when the imbalance is occurred in between these factors, it leads to the formation of ulcer. For example, if we see H. pylori, it produces an enzyme urease. Urease, what it will do means, it splits the urea into ammonia. All of us know that ammonia, which is toxic to the mucosa and which causes direct death of the cell. So it is what we'll call that ammonia is a cytotoxic. Along with this, H. pylori also produces an enzyme called catalase. What catalase will do means, it inactivates the neutrophil action. And along with this H. pylori has addition molecules, means which leads to the sticking of this H. pylori into the surface of the GIT. So it is very difficult to get out from the GIT, for the H. pylori to come out from the GIT, because it has addition molecules that will stick into the GIT. This is about the pathophysiology of the, means what happens in the peptic ulcer. And I already told to you that gastric ulcers, what happens in the gastric ulcer and what happens in the duodenal ulcer. So we'll go to the next one. We already discussed aggressive factors, HCl, pepsin, gastrin, and defensive factors, mucus and bicarbonate ions, and triggering factors of ulcers, which is nothing but causes. Already we have discussed eating spicy foods or using NSAIDs such as aspirin, ibuprofen, etc., and alcohol, tobacco, stress and H. pylori. These are the factors that is responsible for the occurring of the peptic ulcer disease. If we see, if we go for diagnosis, general investigation, that is including physical examination and medical history of the patient, is the first important thing. And go for blood test, it is used for the identification of the H. pylori infection, where we can see the reduced hemoglobin level and raised ESR is a positive test. And breath test, the next one, it is used to diagnose the H. pylori by measuring the amount of carbon dioxide in the exhaled breath. And if you see the gastric function test, a series of tests is performed to reveal all the clinicopathology of the ulcers. And radiology means where we can say that X-ray of barium filled stomach, which is nothing but barium swallow test. Here the barium liquid is drunk, making ulcers visible on the X-ray. And this is done if the when endoscopy does not reveals any ulcers, it is used to identify the ulcers. So this is known as the barium swallow test. And endoscopy means nothing but it is a flexible tube fitted with a camera which is thread down the esophagus into the stomach to see the presence of ulcers. And here there is a recent advanced tool which is called fibro-optic panidoscope. It is more accurate for the diagnosis of the peptic ulcer disease, and biopsy is carried out to check if any malignancy is present. This is about the diagnosis. If we see treatment, management means there are three principles. Means the withdrawal of the ulcerogenic agents, means what are the ulcer causing agents we have to withdraw, and the second one is exact accurate treatment to heal the ulcers, and the third one is therapy to prevent the reoccurrence of the ulcers. These are the management. And if we go for non-pharmacological treatment, rest and diet modification is most important. Restriction of eating spicy foods, and what are the stuff which is irritant to the GIT, and the next one is alcohol consumption, smoking. These are the what are the factors to avoid to reduce the ulcers. A lifestyle modification means stress relieving therapy is also most important to promote healing of the ulcers. And pharmacological treatment, first the most preferred therapy is a triple therapy. If you see the triple therapy, if the patient is allergic to penicillin, then we can go for the proton pump inhibitor, clarithromycin and metronidazole. In case of no allergy to penicillin, then we can select proton pump inhibitor along with the clarithromycin and amoxicillin. And if we need to take any NSAID, then we need to add the misoprostol, which is a prophylactic to the treatment. And antacids are used. These acids neutralize the excess of gastric acid and promote healing, and also reduce the number of recurrences. Some example like aluminum hydroxide is best because it is preferred because of the fewer side effects. Sodium bicarbonate also is there, but aluminum hydroxide is having less side effects when compared to the sodium bicarbonate. H2 receptor antagonists, these agents block H2 receptors, that is histamine, and blocks the acid secretion at the parietal cells mediated by the histamine. And commonly used H2 receptor drugs are cimetidine, famotidine, ranitidine, etc. And we know proton pump inhibitors, these enzymes, the enzyme that is H plus and K plus ATPase present on the secretory surfaces of the gastric parietal cell is responsible for the gastric acid secretions. Means what are the enzymes responsible for the gastric acid secretions? Means H plus and K plus ATPase. So in order to inhibit these enzymes, the proton pump inhibitor like omeprazole, lansoprazole and pantoprazole inhibit them, used for the inhibition of this acid secretion. And ulcer protectives like sucralfate and colloidal bismuth salt, these agents form a protective coat by binding with the ulcers and prevents the further injury due to back diffusion of the HCl acid. So this sucralfate is used in this condition. And we already know that antibiotics which eradicate the H. pylori infection, that is the tetracycline, metronidazole, amoxicillin, are the commonly used drugs. And if we need to go for the surgery is a rarely needed therapy. So we can see weight loss and development of carcinoma, malabsorption syndrome and anemia are the common post-operative problems if we go for the surgery. This is about the treatment of the peptic ulcer disease.